Hi friends, as you all know, ITC has been most controversial area in GST, and more particularly there are several apprehensions about the legality, implementation and justification of Rule 36.4. In this video, I will try to explain through a case study on how to compute the eligible credit by applying Rule 36.4. Before we dive into the Rule 36.4, let's do a quick recap on the basics of ITC under the GST law. A recipient can avail the ITC only if the following conditions are met, which are registration under the GST law, receipt of goods or services, availability of tax invoice, payment of tax by the supplier, filing of returns, and filing of GSTR1 by the supplier. However, this condition has not been made effective since amendment from Finance Act 2021. An important aspect under the ITC is matching of invoices reported by the supplier automatically through technological tools. Since there is no auto matching mechanism, recipients are required to do the matching manually through several forms including 2A or 2B. It is in this backdrop Rule 36.4 comes into the picture and plays a significant role in reversing of ineligible ITC. Please note, this video assumes that the viewers have basic knowledge in filing the GST returns and IT computation. Now let us understand what is Rule 36.4. As you can see on your screen, Rule 36.4 has been reproduced for your reference. The important elements of Rule 36.4 are: Rule 36.4 lays down the criteria for calculating the eligible ITC one can avail during the relevant period. In doing so, one has to gather details of invoices that have not been reported by the suppliers in a given period. So these details can be reconciled or can be obtained by performing certain reconciliations, by extracting some data both from the accounting system and from the GST common portal. And third condition is the recipient should also receive the details of all the purchases during the given period based on his purchase register. So once these details are available, one can arrive at the details of invoices which have been reported. The eligible credit is restricted to 5% of these reported invoices, and the remaining balance shall be carried forward until these are reported. Basically, we need two essential elements of data in computing eligible ITC under Rule 36.4. Number one, we need the details of invoices which have not been reported by the suppliers in their monthly returns. And secondly, we need the details of all the purchases during the given period or month based on the accounting system, based on the updated purchase register. So unless and until these two details are available, it is not possible for one to compute the eligible ITC under Rule 36.4. As you can see, the rate of eligible ITC is following a declining trend, and the latest rate is 5%, whereas the highest rate initially was 20%, and then 10%, and followed by the current rate of 5%. So we have seen in our introductory note that one of the 5 conditions for availing the ITC is payment of GST by the supplier. In the absence of technological tools to determine the payment of tax at invoice level by the supplier, GSTR1, GSTR2A and GSTR2B has been relied upon. However, these forms do not provide an exact confirmation of remittance of tax, but only an indicative report of such payment. The point is, if there is any other source through which recipient is confident of remittance of tax by the supplier, the same can be relied upon after proper documentation, although it may not appear in GSTR 2A or 2B, and the credit can be availed based on these relied upon documents. For example, suppliers may file GSTR1 after the due date, while at the same time those suppliers may pay the tax and file GSTR 3B. In these cases, although GSTR 1 has not been filed, however, the condition of payment of tax, which is an essential condition under section 16, is met. So therefore, if a proper documentation is maintained, credit can still be availed based on these documents. Strictly speaking, Rule 36(4) essentially provides relief to the taxpayers by allowing input tax credit despite the condition of payment of tax under section 16 may not have been fulfilled. The availment of ineligible credit, however, is restricted to 5% of the eligible credit, although insignificant, but still it is allowed. Since Finance Act 2021 has made filing of GSTR 1 by the supplier mandatory, which is yet to be notified, it is expected that Rule 36(4) may be withdrawn in coming days once this is notified, unless the credit is reflected in 2A after filing GSTR 1. It is not possible for the recipient to avail the ITC, and a provision under rule cannot override legal provision under the statute. So this will be the position once the amended condition of filing of GSTR 1 under section 16 is notified. Now, the computation of eligible or ineligible credit as per Rule 36(4) in real life is very challenging, especially due to huge amount of data and reconciliations involved in the process. In order to practically explain this, I will present a case study for easy comprehension and ready reference. The table seen on the screen is a typical example of the impact of Rule 36(4) on availability of ITC in any given month. As you can see, out of the total IGST credit of rupees 4,36,360 as per the books, the eligible credit is only 2,41,387 after availing ITC under Rule 36(4). The exercise behind these numbers is not only time consuming but also should be done meticulously to avoid any errors. For the next few minutes, I will be taking you through the background workings prepared in Excel workbook and the best practices that can be applied in computing the eligible credit. Now friends, what you are looking at in the screen is a typical purchase register of an enterprise for a given month. You can see the data of supplier invoices such as the invoice date, GST number, taxable value, and the GST values. So which are essentials for computing the eligible ITC under Rule 36(4). In practice, the invoice numbers will be totally chaotic and inorderly, because a recipient might be receiving invoices from various sources and each one will have their unique invoice numbers. So therefore, the invoice numbers will look different in practice. However, I have made it simple for explaining this concept here. So basically what you are seeing is a purchase register which is exported from an accounting system for computing the eligible ITC for any given month. It should be noted that this data is for 1 month or period. Now, in our presentation, any reference to period is reference to the month. So there is one more column here, as you can see on the screen, whether reported in GSTR 1. So you can see some entries yes as yes, and there are some entries as no. So I will explain you what is this yes and no, whether reported in GSTR 1 or not. in subsequent worksheets. Now, if we look at the second sheet, we see that the entire data has been split into two components. This is 1 and this is 2. So reported in GSTR1 and not reported in GSTR1. This data is arrived at based on the invoices reported or not reported in 2B or 2A. So basically in a given month, once the month is over, once the period is over, so for filing your monthly returns, when you download the GSTR 2B or 2A, so you will find some entries which are nothing but the details of invoices uploaded by the suppliers. So whichever invoices appear in 2B or 2A will be marked as yes, and whichever invoices not uploaded by the suppliers are marked as no. So this exercise needs to be performed for the purpose of computing the eligible ITC under Rule 36(4). So this data is arrived at based on the invoices reported or not reported in 2B or 2A. So this exercise is a separate exercise, and this data is not available automatically. If a supplier has filed GSTR1, the invoices will appear in either GSTR 2B or 2A, that is either before the due date of GSTR1 or after the due date of GSTR1, because 2B is a static form. If someone files GSTR1 before the due date, the 2B will show those invoices, and if someone files GSTR1 after the due date, the 2A will be updated because that is a dynamic form, and it's perfectly alright. It doesn't make any difference as far as the eligibility to take the ITC is concerned. So based on this, we can arrive at these two tables. One is what is reported and what is not reported, and it has to be done as a separate exercise, and this can be done only by exporting the purchase register from your accounting system and comparing the entries in GSTR 2A and 2B and arriving at the data of invoices which are reported and non-reported. So there is another table below which you can see eligible credit as per Rule 36(4). So this table provides the computation steps for arriving at the eligible ITC in period 1. So this is the period 1. As you can see in our example, in our case study, we have selected the January month. Now for this period, we would be filing the monthly return in the month of February. So this table provides the computation steps for arriving at the eligible ITC, eligible credit for the month of January. So we need to remember that this computation is for the period 1 only, and we are not doing this computation for the February. So this has to be kept in mind. So we are doing this for the period 1, because in subsequent worksheets I will try to highlight why it is important. So we have ITC reported and not reported in this table. As you can see, it's highlighted here. ITC reported in GSTR1 and ITC not reported in GSTR1. So this data is based on these tables. As you can see, this is reported in 2A or 2B, and this is not reported in 2A or 2B. So this exact data has been replicated in this summarized table. So ITC reported in GSTR1 and ITC not reported in GSTR1. Then we have eligible credit here. Third row from the last, which is 5% of the ITC reported in GSTR1. So you can see this eligible credit under Rule 36(4), which is 5%, which is 5% of this value, ITC reported in GSTR1. So we have computed this eligible ITC on the consolidated amount of GST which is appearing in GSTR 2A or 2B, or the consolidated values which have been reported by the suppliers. So remember one thing, we are not computing on ITC not reported in GSTR1. So this 5% eligible credit must be computed on the value reported in GSTR1. As you can see, we have done here. So G40, which is ITC reported in GSTR1 times 5%. Similarly, CGST and SGST. And in the immediate row, following this row, we have arrived at ineligible ITC after reducing this 5% ITC from the total ITC not reported in GSTR1. Now, we have this data which is nothing but ITC not reported in GSTR1 because the suppliers have not reported their invoices in respective GSTR1s and therefore it is not reported in GSTR1. So what we have done, ineligible credit under Rule 36(4) is the balance amount after reducing this 5% eligible ITC. As you can see, this is net of the ITC not reported in GSTR1, which is highlighted here on the screen, and reducing this eligible ITC. So we will arrive at ineligible ITC, ineligible credit, after reducing this eligible credit. So now since we have ineligible ITC for period 1, we can arrive at eligible ITC available for the period 1 in row 45. You can see here. So once we arrive at ineligible ITC, we can arrive at what is the eligible ITC. Now you can see what we have done here. So we can arrive at eligible ITC available for period 1 in row number 45, which is essentially nothing but the total ITC reported in GSTR1, which is this figure, both reported and non-reported, and 5% eligible credit computed in row number 47. So this figure is a combination of the ITC reported in GSTR1 and eligible ITC under Rule 36(4). So which is effectively nothing but the net of the total ITC and the ineligible ITC. So this ITC, which is highlighted in row number 45, shall be reported in GSTR form 3B, and the balance ineligible ITC, which is highlighted here in row number 48, shall be carried forward in the books for availing in the next periods. So this is how the ITC is computed under Rule 36(4) for period 1. So let's now go to period 2, which is February 2021 in our case study. So note, however, that we are not dealing with February data. So we are dealing with treatment of January data in February. So this is very important. So we have this data for period 1, and then we have this data for period 2 and 3, and we have carried forward the data of January 2021 only, and for the purpose of this case study, we have not included the data for the month of February. So we are dealing with only the January. So when we deal with invoices which were not reported in the previous period, in the next period, that is, these are the invoices which were not reported. As you can see in period 1, these were the invoices which were not reported. Okay. So we are dealing with these invoices in period 2 and period 3. So when we deal with these invoices in the next period, first step shall be to arrive at the target upload. What is target upload? So target upload is the total invoices which needs to be uploaded by the supplier in order to become eligible for 100% ITC. So you can refer to this row 33, which is highlighted here, where we have computed the target upload. So this row 33 compute the target upload based on the back calculation. So in order to arrive at target upload, we need to carry forward previous period data of invoices which were not reported and do the back calculation to arrive at the value of invoices which has to be uploaded by the suppliers in this way. You can see here, this is the target upload and this is the total ITC of the previous period, and if we do the back calculation like this, we will arrive at one figure which is a target upload. That means if the suppliers upload this many invoices for January 2021, then you are eligible to take 5% ITC irrespective of the fact whether they have uploaded the invoices or not. So the total target upload for us for January 2021 is this period. So, and the formula is given here, you can take a look at it. This is based on this data and it has been indicated here in row number 33. So if this value is achieved, then we shall be eligible for 5% ITC regardless of whether suppliers file their GSTR1 or not. You can see in the row 34, see this IGST column, the eligible ITC is 20,779 if the upload is 4,15,581. So having arrived at target upload value, we should now proceed to compute the eligible credit. So our first step in this direction is to ascertain how many invoices have been uploaded in period 2. So again we have to repeat the exercise which we have done in period 1. That is, we have to reconcile our 2A and 2B to find out which invoices pertaining to period 1 were reported in period 2. For example, in our case, you can see these two invoices, invoice number 5 and invoice number 9, invoice number 5 and only invoice, sorry. So in our case, invoice number 5 is uploaded for period number 2. You can come down. So you have carried forward the total uploaded invoices from period 1 like this, and then for period 2 there is one invoice that has been reported which we have considered in period 2. So the total upload up to February 2021 is this amount. So both January and February, so the total uploads is this amount, 2,91,678. So now we will now compute the total eligible credit, which is 5% of total uploads till period 2, which is reflected in the second row like this. So these are the total uploads, and we will compute 5% of total uploads like this. So this becomes our eligible credit on year-to-date basis. So total eligible credit for both January and February. However, in period 1, we have already availed 5% eligible credit on this figure. So therefore, we will reduce this figure from this total eligible credit to arrive at the eligible credit which is applicable for period 2 like this. Since this is the eligible credit for period 2, we will add this eligible credit for the credits applicable for the current period and report this credit into the GSTR 3B. So going further, let's look into period 3. Period 3 in our case is March 2021. As we can see, we have repeated the same exercise. We have checked which invoices were reported in March 2021, and we have found that the suppliers have reported 3 invoices in period 3. This, and this. The 3 invoices that has been uploaded by the suppliers. Now, let's come down and see how we have to ascertain the eligible credit for period 3. So, I am again reminding, we are only dealing with the data of January 2021. So, if we combine these total uploads, which is the total invoices uploaded by suppliers in period 1, period 2, which we have just seen, and period 3 for this current period, we will arrive at total upload up to March 2021, which is this figure. Now, interestingly, if you look at this figure, the total upload is more than the target upload. What is our target upload? Our target upload is 4,15,581. And what is the total upload? You can see here 4,26,678 and CGST 66,000. CGST total upload is 66,970, which is more than the target upload. Since the actual upload is more than the target upload, so the entire ITC for January 2021 becomes eligible. You can see in the below table. So the total ITC is this much. Availed and eligible for March will be the net ITC, which is the total ITC which can be taken in the month of March. Now friends, let's go back to our original computation and see how we have arrived at the eligible credit for the 3 periods. So friends, we have seen how the background workings needs to be done in order to arrive at this summarized table for taking the eligible ITC under form 3B. So these entire workings needs to be performed for each period so long as the entire 100% credit is available. Similarly, for period 2, the same process has to be performed, and as you can see on the screen, so we will have the data of the invoices uploaded in period 1, and we will have data of invoices uploaded in period 2 and the eligible ITC under Rule 36(4). The point is, for each consecutive period, we need to track the uploads by the suppliers and the pending uploads by the remaining suppliers. So this tracking is must and necessary for computing Rule 36(4). Similarly, in period 3, in our example, since we have seen all the suppliers have uploaded the data, we become eligible for taking the entire ITC. So the exercise ceased to exist for this particular period. However, it should be noted that this exercise will continue to be done for other periods, even though for this period the eligible credit is 100% available, but it may not be so for other periods, and hence this exercise has to be repeated for other periods. Now friends, there is one more concept which I will talk, and it is relevant under COVID circumstances. As we have seen, the computation methodology for arriving at eligible ITC under Rule 36(4), which shall be repeated until the target upload is achieved. As part of COVID relief package in the year 2020, as per Circular 142 of 2020, Rule 36.4 was made applicable on cumulative basis for a period of 7 months. The practical implication of this relief is one can generate 2A on cumulative basis for 7 months and need not get affected by reporting or not reporting in individual months. That is, for example, if an invoice is not reported in July, the same will not become ineligible in August, as it could be reported in August and the same may become eligible for September 2020. Similarly, during the current COVID crisis, notification 13/2021 dated 1st May 2021 has been issued, allowing cumulative application of Rule 36.4 for the months of April and May 2021. So therefore, individual assessment of invoices for April 2021 is not required in view of this notification. The computation methodology will remain the same except for the fact that the tracing of suppliers, the tracing of invoices in 2A, 2B can be performed for the entire cumulative period rather than each individual month, and eligible ITC can be computed for these entire months and the eligible ITC can be computed for all these months together on combined basis rather than on individual basis. So therefore, any fluctuations in credits during these months can be done away with, and the entire ITC can be availed at the end of the cumulative period, and if all the suppliers upload their invoices, the recipient would be fully eligible for the 100% credit.